Okay, so let's pick up where we left off, which is with question number 5. And question number 5 asks us to describe the sample in terms of sex and Hispanic origin simultaneously. So in other words, I want to know how many men are there who say they're of Hispanic origin, how many women say they're of Hispanic origin, etc. In question 4, when you look back up here, it didn't tell us the two variables simultaneously. I know that there are 3,147 men, but I don't know which of those consider themselves to be Hispanic and which consider themselves to be non-Hispanic. The other thing that I realize as I'm looking at this question is I think I made a mistake earlier by not changing one of the variable names. If you look back up here at question 3, I think I went straight to the columns of variable name changes and didn't change this one, biosex, to sex. So we can go take care of that. But in question 4 where it says sex and in question 5 where it says sex, it's referring to what was originally called biosex. So if we come back over here to our SPSS, we use the window to move back over to the data set. We come into variable view and you can see the variable here called biosex, which I just want to change to sex so that it matches how I'm talking about it in the problem. So now what we do is we go to Analyze, and to look at two variables simultaneously and get the frequency data, we go to Descriptive Statistics. We don't use frequencies to look at two variables, we use crosstabs. That lets us look at two variables at once. So we click on crosstabs and then we're going to shoot sex in for rows and we're going to shoot Hispanic in for columns. And we're going to paste that so that it takes us or puts that information in the syntax window, which then I can go take a look at. Here's where the information is asking me to give a table of sex by Hispanic. I'm going to highlight that and hit the green arrow so that it will run it. And now, if I look down here at the bottom, I've got some general information about the cases, valid cases and missing cases. The table I'm interested in is this second table, which I can double click, and I can see that I have 2,778 men who say they are not of Hispanic origin. So let me highlight that background, make it orange, okay. And then just so that you can maybe this will make it easier as I'm typing it, make sure you see where I'm looking. Let me make this one yellow. So when I write this sentence over here, I would say, and again if you would switch it to a different colored font, that would be great. There are 2,778 non-Hispanic men, 358 Hispanic men. And then I would need to come back to the table and get the information for the men, for the women as well. Again, you can make this whatever color you want. I just want to be able to find it when I'm looking at your answers. So there are 2,960 non-Hispanic women and 385 Hispanic women. 23 there. To be complete, we should say there were 23 missing data points, which I got actually from this other table up here. That blue square or purplish square. Okay? So now we're going to go on to number 6, which says, how many hours per week do the men and women separately watch TV? Okay, now this question, there are actually two different ways we can solve this. One is by using something called split file. All right, and that means that we're going to split the file into two subfiles, a file for men and a file for women, and then I could simply get the average for the men and the women. The other way that we can do it is to do a means comparison, where I get the means. I ask the SPSS to generate the means, but I ask it to compare between the men and the women. So let's do it both ways, and of course you'll see that you get the same answer. But sometimes there's different reasons for doing it the two different ways. So if I come in here and I do data split file right down here at the bottom, I can split the file based upon, and again it's hard to see unless I make that bigger, based upon sex. So I highlight sex and then I say that I want it to organize the output by groups and do the groups based on sex. Okay. Now I'm going to paste this. And that's, again, really important so that I have a record of what I've done. All right, I'm going to sort the cases by sex, and then I'm going to split the file by sex. So let's do that. Hit run. Okay, nothing's going to change in the output window, okay, other than that it pastes in syntax that I followed. But if I go back to the data window, make this big so you can see it, you can see that it's now organized by sex. So I've got all the folks who are scored as a 1 first, and if I scroll way down here now, it's the folks scored as a 2. And importantly, there's a little notice over here on the side that tells me that the file has been split by sex. So now, when I do analyze, I can just go to descriptive statistics, and I can just run descriptives. Okay, so descriptive statistics, and I want it for, what did we say, video or TV watching? I'm sorry, I can't remember. Okay, it was for TV watching, so I click on TV right here. I shoot that in here. I hit paste, go to my syntax window, and you can see that I've asked for the descriptive statistics for TV. Hit run, and so because we ran the split file, right, you can see that we've got data for males and data for females. And so what we're interested in is the mean and the standard deviation. So I'm going to highlight those cells so that I can see them. And then same thing here. Here's the answer for the females. Okay, so now if I go over to my window here by split file, I end up writing a sentence that says, the men watch 17.18 hours per week with a standard deviation of 15.65, and the women watch 15.35 hours per week with a standard deviation of 14.87. Okay, so now let me show you how we would do it the other way, just so you know 2 different ways to do this. So I'm going to go back here and be reminded that I split the file by sex. So what I need to do is I need to go back to data, go back to split file, and I need to hit reset. Okay, so I'm going to reset that. I can paste that. So I can see here that I turned the split file off. Now I need to run it, otherwise it won't have done it. See, it still says split file by sex here, so I've got to actually run this. If you don't remember to run this, you're going to get some funny errors. So if you see funny errors, take a look down here and see if you split the file. So I'm going to run that. So now the split file is off. I can see it in my output. So now what I want to do is I want to do analyze, and now I'm going to do compare means. I'm going to do means, and I'm still interested in TV watching. Goodness, I got to make this bigger so I can see it. Right? Got to find TV watching. That's my dependent variable. All right? Hopefully you've learned about that through the coursework. I think you have. So that's the dependent variable, and my independent variable is sex, and I put that in here. So now I click paste, go to the syntax, ask for a means table of TV by sex, and it's a different method of displaying it, but it should give us the same exact information that we saw before. Let me put these in orange again so you can see that they're the same, and then we'll put these in yellow. Okay, so now we can just confirm the men watch 17.18 hours per week. That matches with what we saw here. 15.65 is the standard deviation, and the women 15.35. That matches 14.87. So the answer comes out the same for both of them. Okay. So now in question number 7, this one starts to be a little more complicated. Now we want to know how many now we want to look at 2 variables simultaneously and get descriptives for television watching. So it says, describe how many hours per week the male Hispanic, male non-Hispanic, female Hispanic, and female non-Hispanic participants watch TV. Okay. So now, to do 2 variables at once, the split file is not as an effective way to do it. So the best way to do it is to compare means. So we do compare means. And you can see down here in the independent list, there's room to put in other variables. So we're going to find Hispanic and put Hispanic in here as well. And it will actually do